All right, the Huskers finish off their first full week of fall camp, and they cap it with a scrimmage on Saturday. Sean, your impressions of the scrimmage? They got a lot of plays and a lot of work in on this Saturday afternoon.
Scrimmages are great, number one, to watch for us because it really gives you a true barometer of really who's where and what's going on in this camp. And I thought the thing that jumped out to me, Andy, was the play of the defensive line. I think there were a lot of questions, but that starting front four, particularly those defensive tackles, Kevin Maurice, Mick Stoltenberg, they really held their own. They looked impressive. They looked physical. Now, Khalil Davis was out today, but those two guys particularly, I thought, took away the inside run game, and that was promising because that was something a lot of us wondered how they would hold up.
Freedom and Dezuris manning the outside on the ends position, but let's talk about the linebackers because a year ago this was a question mark, and on Saturday after practice, Mike Riley says this position is really a position of strength.
We saw three really big moments from those linebackers. Josh Banderas with a big tackle for loss in the backfield. That was one of the more impressive defensive plays I've seen him make in a scrimmage situation here at Nebraska. Marcus Newby absolutely blew up Divino Zigbo in a blocking situation, just threw him in the turf. That was an impressive play as well. And then Dedrick Young made a nice play. Those three linebackers in that starting defense had a nice showing, but you even saw some guys like Luke Gifford, Mohamed Berry. It's no doubt one of the deepest, if not the deepest position right now on this defense.
And you did mention Michael Rose-Ivy, who sat this one out with a minor knee injury. Mike Riley saying he doesn't believe that to be serious. Let's go on to the other side of the football, offensive line. It's a young group in terms of not having much experience, but a talented group, and they're starting to feel it.
Yeah, you're seeing that starting five really come together. I think it's all but a lock that those five players out there, Dylan Utter at center, Tanner Farmer, Gerald Foster at guard, David Neville, and then obviously Nick Gates at the other tackle. Those guys are locked in, and they're really building this group up to be the starting five. I thought Neville held up well today for his first real true scrimmage with the number one offense, but there's no doubt. And the young guys, I thought the freshman group late, they're all going to redshirt, Mike Riley said, but they put together a nice drive. That group of those four freshmen led by Matt Farniak, John Raridan, Bo Wilson, and that whole group, a very, very impressive drive they had too.
We'll talk about another freshman in the backfield, Trey Bryant. He played very well on Saturday, and not only with the backups, but he also saw some times with the ones occasionally. Mike Riley saying this is going to be a difficult decision in a loaded position group with Trey Bryant.
He has just the ability, Andy, when you look at Trey Bryant, to make people miss. He's got very quick feet. You saw a couple of times where he kept his feet moving, went right to left, got around kind of the scrum and found yards that weren't there. And when you're running a pro-style offense, that's big. I mean, if he can take a 2nd and 9 and make it 2nd and 6, which we saw that today a lot from him, that's a pretty valuable tool. And I think the coaching staff is really thinking a lot about Trey Bryant now, like, what do we do here? I mean, how do we play this? Because we've already got 3 other guys ahead of them that are veterans. And how can we make this work? And I think that's the question this next week will be. They have to decide what they want to do with Trey Bryant.
Yeah, Mike Riley's saying he wants to do right by the kid because he doesn't want to pull the red shirt and not play him. He's going to make it worth it. And one of the great plays that Trey Bryant made, he got hit at the 4 and dragged about 4 guys into the end zone against the backups. It was pretty impressive. All right, let's talk about the quarterbacks. Tommy Armstrong, he scored on a nice option read, and I think that's really his game.
Hey, the option, baby.
I was going to say that was probably his best play of the day.
Yeah, Tommy had a nice zone read option. I mean, hit some underneath routes, a lot of swing passes, nothing really big downfield. We didn't see Brandon Riley get involved with him much today. It was
Jordan Westerkamp didn't play.
Just a lot of swing passes, a lot of underneath check down throws, screens. They kept it very basic for Tommy. But I thought the guy that impressed me was Tanner Lee. I mean, you look at what he comes in here as a 3,000 plus yard passer from Tulane. And by the way, Nebraska finds out they get another year of eligibility, so he'll play here in 17 and 18. Man, you can see this coaching staff licking their chops for the future just to have another guy in there to go with Patrick O'Brien and then Tristan Gebbia to compete for that job down the road.
Yeah, that kind of spread throughout practice. Tanner Lee had that extra year of eligibility, and I think you guys were the first to have it. How does this change the dynamic of the quarterback position moving forward after Tommy and Riker leave?
Well, it just gives you such a bridge gap now because the last two quarterbacks, Nebraska has been on the freshman starting quarterback cycle. Taylor Martinez, Tommy Armstrong. And, before Tanner Lee, they were going to be on that again, with Patrick O'Brien more than likely having to be the starter. So I think it's not – we've learned this. 7 years of freshman starting quarterbacks, it's not necessarily a good thing to have a young guy out there because mistakes are going to happen. So this will give Nebraska potentially a veteran that can bridge the gap, let O'Brien, let Jebbia develop for the future, and maybe those guys will beat him out. Who knows, Andy? But it just gives more competition and more quality arms at a position that wins championships.
Definitely a position of depth now moving forward. All right, big picture now. Moving forward in terms of this week, it's a big week for this program in fall camp because you do some heavy lifting this week.
Yeah, this is kind of the men from the boys week. I mean, you really turn it on. This is the second week. There's 3 two-a-days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I'm doing my math here. That's 6 practices in those 3 days, 8, 9. They have 9 practices over the 6 days here of the week before classes start the following Monday. Ideally, you go through another major scrimmage here in Memorial Stadium on Saturday, and this is kind of the week the final decisions get made, and red shirts and other depth chart moves have to be decided.
And you feel it, right? I mean, you can
I'm
feel it. It's
ready.
It's
I'm
right
ready.
around the corner in
This
the
is,
opener.
I mean,
You can feel it. It's
neck hair is up.
We were watching scrimmages, football back at Memorial Stadium. We'll be back for real on September the 3rd, the opener against Fresno State.